And we are live. Hello, love. First comment. That's my girl. That's my girl. Hello, hello, hello. It is noon and I am ready to start the live. I'm going to wait a few minutes to see if we have some people come in. And yeah. Then we're going to talk a little bit about Jalen and his life and his legacy and all that stuff. As you come in, just say hello if you feel comfortable. I'm thankful that this live is working correctly. I was having problems last week. Thank you, Tammy. I love you too. Just been here gathering my thoughts. Asking for the words because, yeah. Today's been a good day so far. We'll go out later and celebrate Jalen's birthday with my mom and possibly my nephew. And his favorite restaurant was Mexican, so we'll go and have Mexican like we do every year and likely go to the graveyard to see him. Hey, Mom, I love you too. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, baby, you get all the honorable mention. Thank you. So I don't want to take up too much anybody's time today. Hey, there's my nephew. Hey, Kale. So, as people potentially come on in, I love you too, baby. As people potentially come on in, I'm just going to go ahead and let you guys know. I when it comes to things, I always I have to have an intention. And I learned that from our good therapist, Sean, right, Tammy? That why are you doing this? So my why is I want to celebrate. Hey, Alina, there's my niece. I love you, baby. I want to every year since Jalen has passed away, and it will be 10 years in November, I've always wanted to let me slow down. So every year, I feel like that I've grown and evolved and stepped more into my healing from the loss. So on his birthday and on his anniversary day, I'm very strategic on what I do with those days. So today I wanted to oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, hold on one second. My sister is trying to find my channel and she can't find the live because she can't find the channel. It's probably, well, I know it's probably because I changed my channel name and I want to make sure that she makes it in here. So I'm very strategic on how sorry, I'm still trying to get her in here. Hey, Kale, can you do me a favor? Can you send Aunt Wissy the link so I don't have people holding? Oh, she's got it. Okay. Thank you. Um, all right. Sorry, guys. Sorry. She says she got it. So I've stepped more into my healing as years have gone by. And I've been very intentional about how I spend those days, his birthday and his anniversary day. So this year, as it's a milestone and his 30th birthday, and his anniversary will be a milestone, I guess, if that's what you could call it, at 10 years, which it does not feel like it's been that long, in November. But with today being his 30th birthday and a milestone, I always look for ways to either take care of me and honor him. So I feel like that this is the best way for me to honor him is to share his story and my grief journey with people so that other people who are on a grief journey, regardless of who they lost, whether it's their child or their spouse, a friend, their parent, another loved one, can eventually try to find healing in this. So I wanted to honor Jalen today by sharing his story with you guys. Some of you are friends and family and already know him, whether it's you know him directly or you knew him through me. And then some of you guys have never met me or him. So I want to tell you a little bit about my son. First of all, so that you can put a picture or a face with the name, this is him. This is Jalen. Sorry, the ring light. Okay. And like I said, today is Jalen's 30th birthday. He would be 30. He passed away when he was 20, so he's been gone almost 10 years. Thank you so much, Aline. Thank you for being here. So, thank you, sister. So, Jalen was born, of course, on May the 4th in 1994. And I was 16 years old when I had him. And I remember when I found out I was pregnant, there was just no other option but to have my child. And I grew up really quick in being Jalen's mom. But the years quickly went by. So Jalen played football from flag football all the way through school, high school, and then went on to play. Sorry, guys. He went on to play college football. He graduated. He graduated in 2012, and he went the same year that he graduated to Kentucky State University. No, he didn't. That's Kill. Kentucky Christian University. Thank you, guys. Thank you. He went on to play football in Kentucky Christian University. And his dream was to go on to coach football. And he was in college for about 2 semesters when, let me slow down and back up. Let me slow down and back up. Okay. I had Jalen when I was 16. When he was 13, he lost his dad. Sorry, guys. I don't know why my light went off for no reason. Jalen, are you in here playing? Because you know I came up here early to set this stuff up. Sorry, my ring light don't went off. Try to get my attention, I think. Okay, I don't know if that's better or not. Okay. So, his dad passed away in 2007 when Jalen was 13 years old. And that crushed my son. And it was hard trying to get him in therapy to work through his grief. But I could tell he was just kind of holding it in. He wouldn't open up about it. But what he did was use that as motivation as he played sports and things. He would dedicate all his games, in honor of his dad and things like that. And I can remember towards the end of Jalen's life, him and I were at odds over, him thinking he was grown, me thinking he was not. And just not agreeing on a lot of decisions and things that he was making for his life and things like that. Normal teenage stuff that they think they know everything. So I remember Jalen starting to open up a little bit about his dad. And the same year he passed away, just a few more months before that, I remember telling Jalen that if I could take your pain away, I would. I wish that I could take your pain away. And those words sometimes haunt me because I feel like that's what I did. Like I've taken his pain away. I took on the pain. He doesn't have it anymore, but now I'm carrying it. So there's really, if you could follow a timeline, but I feel like I'm all over the place. Now listen, Jalen. Stop playing around. I'm sorry, you all. There's no reason for this. All right, last time, and if you go off again, you're staying off. Don't know what's up with that. Okay. Okay. So Jalen graduated high school, goes to college. He spends about 2 semesters up there playing football for Kentucky Christian University. And then he tells me that he thinks he's going to sit out a semester or so because he was put on academic probation for his grades and things like that. And he was just going to come home. So he came on home. I remember when we took him to college, though, me and my husband took him to drop him off. And Kentucky Christian is like 2.5 hours from where we live at. And I cried the whole way home from the time we left there to the time we got back in town. And that was like a feeling I had never, it was empty nest syndrome, I guess, to the 3rd degree, even though I had my youngest here, I just, I never been away from Jalen, like that. And he had moved out and went away to college. It was like a feeling I had never experienced before. And I just didn't know how I was going to function. So fast forward, he's away for a couple of years. Of course, we go and support his football games and, go visit him on his birthday. And then he would come home on weekends. So we would still see him, regularly as much as we could. So he comes home and he moves back in with me and my husband. I've been married 2 times. So my current husband is my second husband. He is not Jalen's biological father, although he has been the only father figure in Jalen's life from the time he was 13 until he passed away at 20. He taught my son how to drive. He advocated for him. He pulled me off of him when I was trying to go upside his head for doing some stuff he didn't have no business doing. And, Jalen ended up really loving my husband as his father figure, and he gave me away to him at our wedding. So anyway, Jalen comes on home, and by that time he's done graduated high school. He's done, been living on his own in college. So he thinks he can just come and go however he wants to. So that's where we was disagreeing on some things. Me want him to have a curfew. He feel like he's 19 and 20. He don't have to have one. So, there was little times where he would move out and go stay with my mom or go stay with his other grandma. And he eventually got his own apartment. And I remember going shopping for his apartment, making him food, taking it over there, and things like that. And he was working 2 jobs. He was working at a factory and he was working at the car wash. And he also, Jalen had been in a car accident earlier the year that he passed away. And it was like a minor type of accident. No one was hurt. He had ran over a median in the middle of the road and messed up I think he swerved to miss the vehicle, and then he messed up his vehicle. So then while he was waiting to get another vehicle, he had borrowed my mom's car one night. As soon as he left from picking it up at her job, he got T-boned in her vehicle. He was fine. Everything was fine. He had a couple of scrapes above his eye, and he had to do some physical therapy and stuff. The car looked much worse than you would expect it. Jalen came out of that just fine. This was all in 2014. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you. So that was the second accident he was in. He does physical therapy for that. And then he goes and he's looking for another vehicle. My husband helps him find another vehicle. And so he's got a vehicle. He's got 2 jobs. And he's doing well for himself. So towards the end of 2014, Jalen, he was partying like 19 and 20-year-olds do. I remember he picked up, how something happens and then you go back and you look and was like, was that a sign, or that was odd, or, I didn't know at that point what was to come. So, at the time my youngest was 4. And that Wednesday, Jalen had picked Javon up, and I was at work, and he was like, I'm gonna come and get my brother, and we're gonna hang out. I'm like, make sure you take some selfies or take some pictures and send me some pictures of you all. Well, I text him. He never did send the pictures. He had forgot to send the pictures, and then he ended up he had took Javon home before I got off and never did get around to getting the pictures. So that was a Wednesday. And then I talked to Jalen on Friday. He had stopped by the house. It escapes me what we talked about, but it was nothing like major, I don't think. But I remember that hug. And Friday comes and goes. Saturday, I had to work. I worked No, I didn't work second shift. I think I worked first. I don't remember. I just remember me and my friend Tammy were leaving work, and we just wished each other well, said goodbyes. And I go home, I go to bed. And that Sunday morning, a knock at the door woke me and my husband up. And this is all kind of a blur. I think I answered the door just in my gown because I think I was just kind of startled at like who's because we never have company, so people don't just pop up at our house. And so I'm like, who's at the door? So I rushed to the door. It was police and the chaplain. And I swear it's such a blur. Verbatim what he said, I have no idea. I don't remember. Other than the fact that he informed me that my son had passed away. And me and my husband were both standing there. And I just remember saying no. And I remember telling my husband to call my mama. I remember. See, I didn't even remember his name. Thank you. I remember, throughout the day, just kind of I was in a state of shock. The people rushed to the house, family and friends, and people were calling, and talking to the police officer. I was trying to get, of course, information on like what happened. So throughout the course of the day, the coming weeks, I got more information on what happened. So it was a car accident. So it would have been the third one of that year, the third and final. I asked the police who was with him, and he said he was by himself. And I said, no, I don't think so, because he did have a friend that he had been hanging out with, and that was staying with him. So I was like, I know that they were together. They're always together. And the accident occurred on a highway about 45 minutes away from the town that we lived in. Jalen had went there to hang out with some friends. And so they ended up finding out that I was correct. His friend, and I'll just refer to him as his friend, I won't say his name, was with him. And that he had survived, and he was in the hospital in critical condition. I'm sorry, guys. So dry. So we live in a small town, and the rumor mill's always buzzing. And that was definitely no different. So I was hearing different rumors about what happened, and the police said that Jalen was driving. It was over the course of the next few days. It was in the paper and on the news that Jalen was driving, and they really didn't know what caused the accident, but it was a one vehicle accident. And so after further research, comes to find out that they were not correct in Jalen was not driving the vehicle. It was his vehicle, but his friend was driving the vehicle. So there was a whole investigation for things that I won't get into too much here, because the detective advised me exactly the standard that our local newspaper put it in there incorrectly as well. So yeah, you can't always trust what you read, because I did have them run a new article correcting that wrong information. Sorry. So once okay, so let me explain for some people who might not understand. There was confusion on who was driving, because it was Jalen's vehicle, and they were both ejected from the vehicle. So that's why they made the assumption that Jalen was driving. Nobody said any different. So that's what they went with. Well, I was receiving phone calls, and some people had saw them leave the party that they were at that night, and they confirmed that Jalen was not driving. That was an important detail for insurance purposes and things like that, and for me wanting to know what actually happened. That's the most important thing. Like, I need to know what happened. So once we confirmed that Jalen was not the driver, then it became there was an investigation, and bear with me. I'm trying to choose my words wisely when it comes to this part of the story. So there was an investigation, and the grand jury chose not to indict his friend for thank you, Stephanie. Thank you. They chose not to indict. So for me, of course, there's all these different feelings and when it comes to grief: anger, denial, acceptance, whatever the stages of grief are. I'm sure I've been through them all on more than one occasion. So this is where I stood as far as an indictment and the investigation, where I stood at that time. I was angry. I was angry at the friend, because I felt like that I didn't see remorse. So I felt like justice then needed to be served. So the investigation ended. There was, a little bit that person had to go through to because of the accident, as far as consequences or whatever. So time has went on, and I had struggled with being angry at that person, being angry at Jalen, questioning why didn't he have a seatbelt on, questioning, because that's a big thing, we just wear our seatbelts. So that's one point I want to make, because they told me, they as in the detective, somebody of authority told me that had he been wearing his seatbelt, of course the likelihood was that he would have survived the accident. So I do advocate for wearing seatbelts. That's very important. And to make sure that I don't get to where I think I'm going rambling and off track, I did make a few notes to keep me on track. So if I look over here, I'm just trying to make sure that I have. Yep. I have stayed on track. So I excuse me. I communicated with his friend a little bit, during that time frame. I asked him not to come to the funeral. I think he got out of the hospital excuse me, the day before or the day of the funeral. I asked that he not come, and so he didn't. I still was feeling like that there was, no remorse, and that was just that's my perspective at that time. So, time went on, and I didn't communicate with that person, but I did. Did have to go to court over it, and he was there. And one of the things, and the judge and the detective were very accommodating to my needs, to see, what did I need, from this, I guess. So one thing I did ask for was a meeting with his friend so that I could get to find out what happened. But I was angry at him, he was angry at me. The meeting didn't really wasn't really productive. He did what he had to do, and that was meet with me, but he wasn't really forthcoming at that time. And so moving forward over the years, it's just been almost debilitating. The grief has been. And the only thing that I feel like has kept me going is that I have a now 13-year-old son that requires a lot of me. And so the mom guilt kicked in probably about 4 or 5, maybe 6 years ago, when I just felt like I wasn't present for Javon, and that he deserved for me to be present for him like I was for Jalen. And I did not want to continue to allow my grief to consume me, but I didn't know how. I didn't know how to stop it, to change it. I just didn't feel like that was a fake it till you make it type of thing. I just could not move forward. Him and my husband would do things together, and I just did not want to be an active participant in the family. I would rather sit home, and I was just depressed, of course. So that is how Jalen passed away. He died in a automobile accident on November 23rd, 2014. He was ejected from the vehicle. So the news, I found out through the news that after the accident, Jalen was ejected and in the road. So another vehicle came by and ran over his legs. So they did an autopsy to find out, to determine the cause of death, for several reasons, and one of them being because the man who was driving that vehicle was distraught, thinking that he had caused it. So they did determine in the autopsy that Jalen was already passed away when that man drove over his legs. But that was some devastating news to get from the news, on the news. You hear it on the news about your own child, because we hear bad stuff on the news all the time, and we never do believe it will happen to us. But this is my son that they're talking about. So I called the detective. He apologized for me not, knowing ahead of time, and he didn't realize it was getting released and things like that. So I have dealt with my grief at the same time being so fueled by anger towards his friend. And I had tried on occasion to make myself or talk myself into forgiveness, and that that's what God would want, right? And that's what we're supposed to do, is forgive. But I knew that wasn't authentic when I told myself that I had forgiven him. However, that was just throughout this course, and it's been almost 10 years. And I have just recently, a few months ago, reached out to this young man and had a conversation via message. And this has been a journey now. I have done a lot of soul searching, a lot of grieving, allowing myself to grieve, because that is what I believe has set me back during this grief journey, is the fact that I suppressed it. I suppressed it for so long. So because I never dealt with it, I couldn't deal with, especially dealing with my own grief, I definitely couldn't deal with the anger or even think about forgiveness towards this young man. And I want to be clear that my anger towards him was not because of the accident, because I understand that accidents happen, and I know that he would never intentionally put Jalen in harm's way. So it wasn't the accident, because the roles could have very well have been reversed. It wasn't the accident that I was angry about. It was because I didn't see remorse. That is what angered me. And I felt like that they both made decisions that night that devastated so many people. The loss of Jalen, and that changed so many people's lives. So that's where I was angry at both of them. Uh, but of course, Jalen wasn't here. His friend was. So just recently, I had done a lot of work, a lot of journaling, reading, listening to podcasts, and really laying it all out and giving it to God and asking Him to help me through this. I have felt at peace with this young man, and I truly feel so it had to come. I realized I tried to force it before, but those feelings had to come. And whether, anybody thinks that I shouldn't have been upset with him or I should have been upset with him, either way, like those were my feelings to process. So I had to go through all of that to get to the other side of it. And once I decided to forgive him within me, I needed him to know that. Whether it mattered to him or not, I just needed him to know. Because this young man was Jalen's friend for years, and he had spent some time with us, spent some nights with us, went to church with us and things like that. So it's not like I was not familiar with him. We had history. He's been in our home. And, things hadn't always been pleasant, with him and Jalen's relationship. There've been some ups and downs. And, I didn't always agree with their friendship, but I also couldn't choose Jalen's friends. So I did understand that Jalen loved him. I do believe that he loved Jalen. And I had put myself in their shoes and remembered some things that I did when I was younger that could have put me the same place, could have put me on either side, in his friend's shoes or in Jalen's shoes. And that you believe you're invincible when you're young and you're not. So that, along with a whole lot of other stuff and time, it takes time. You can't force forgiveness. And I do believe that forgiveness is a choice, but you have to get up and make, you can't force yourself to choose. You can choose forgiveness and even sometimes still have things that will trigger you into the angry part of it, but then go back to, no, I choose to forgive. I choose to forgive. And I did that for me, especially because I don't want to live my life in anger, especially when I knew that as time went on, I could understand that we are all human and we are all flawed and we all make mistakes. Some of those mistakes you can recover from, and some of them are permanent or have a permanent impact on someone's life. And unfortunately, that's what this was. It had a permanent impact on a lot of people's lives. So I do choose to forgive. I wanted to be very careful when I came today to share Jalen's story because I have just a few months ago, you know, made amends with this young man. And in no way do I want this to impact that. Now, we haven't communicated since we made amends, and and that's fine. But I don't want him to come across this, or for anybody else to come across this video and to think that because I am, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm not speaking negatively of him because I don't feel negatively towards him. It's just a part of the story. So, I'm trying to share the facts as they were, and but be very meticulous about my words. Uh, because like I said, I don't want to say his name. Uh, and I'm not trying to shine a negative light on him because I know that putting myself in his shoes as I had to during the years in my grief journey and thinking about forgiveness and carrying around anger towards one person, and then grief from another person, and then anger towards him, and all these feelings. I didn't want to continue to carry that around. And so once I started healing from that, like I do forgive him. And I ask him to forgive me because I know that there are some things that I did that I probably could have done differently at that time. So and everybody's perspective is their truth. So I know that there were things that I did that upset him and had him angry at me. So, if I can forgive, I can also admit that I could have done things differently in certain situations, and I asked for forgiveness as well. And we forgave each other, and I hope that he found some peace in our conversation because I did. So I don't know what this is for. This as in this grief, this pain. But it's very important for me to share Jalen's story because he was here and he lived his life and he loved his family, and he impacted so many people's lives. I had people message me that knew Jalen from college or from the community, and share with me what Jalen meant to them. And I had no idea the impact that my son was out here making on people's lives. And I was just blown away at all the stories that were shared with me at what he did for people and the impact he made on their life at such a young age. Jalen led in kindness. He was a helper. He had a huge smile. He laughed all the time, and he had squinty eyes when he laughed because they closed almost. He played football in college with some guys, and one of them lived in Florida, and he flew to Kentucky from Florida to attend Jalen's services. And some of these young men still communicate with me today. And Jalen was only around them for uh, in in college with them for 2 semesters. So that let me know, how much he meant to those people. I just wish I knew it then when he was still here. We sometimes take people for granted. And so it's important for me to give people their flowers while they are yet here, to tell them how amazing they are, tell them what they mean to you. And I did with Jalen. He knew that I loved him. He knew it. I just wish that I knew the things about him that I learned from his friends and people that knew him after he passed away. He was one of the most amazing individuals you will ever meet. And I'm not saying that because he's my son. I have a lot of what it could have been like. What he never had kids. He never got married. What would he be doing at this point? We live in a small community, so I see a lot of his friends that he graduated with. See them, I work with a few of them, and I see them get married, have kids, and it's just like, wow, like that always makes me think of Jalen. How could it not? But I just wanted to come today and I'm making sure that I don't have anything else here. I just wanted to share about my son on his 30th birthday for people that did not know him and the people that did, and have given me their time today to listen to my story, whether they already knew it or not. I appreciate you guys so much. And if you're on a grief journey, if you've lost somebody, remember to give yourself grace. Remember to give yourself grace. Remember to take it a day at a time. It is a journey. I will forever, ever grieve my son. I think that I was waiting for the time to get to the other side of this. Like, when I've grieved, then I'll start living my life. And that's truly what I was thinking for all those years. And then our good old therapist, Sean, ours in me and Tammy, she's one of my best friends, and she's in the chat, and she introduced me to him. Unfortunately, she met him because she lost her son as well, Chase Linton. And we're hoping that Chase and Jalen are up there dancing on today, celebrating his birthday. So I will leave you with this, is what my therapist told me. And this was a turning point for me. He said that you can hold space for two opposite things at the same time. You can have your grief and you can have your joy and live your life. And once I understood that concept, it really changed my grief journey. And I began to live my life. And I began to become an active participant in my 13-year-old son's life, Javon's life, and be active with him and do things with him, be more present of a mom than I had been. At the same time, while I held space for my grief from losing Jalen. So, on today, I just ask one thing of everybody. Just say his name. Jalen. Just say his name. Thank you guys so much. If anybody has anything that they want to say, feel free to add it in the chat. I believe that I have said all that I need to say. I do want to read because I was trying to share and not read as best I could. So I'm not gonna close it out just yet. I'm gonna read the chat. I think this is where I did. Yes, Callista, it is a choice that we make daily. It is a choice that we make daily as far as forgiveness. Thank you. Ariel, that's fine. Thank you for coming in, sweetheart. Thank you. Live, laugh, and love. Yes, like Jalen always did. And that is the best way to honor him today. Do something that makes you happy. Do something that makes you laugh. Because Jalen loved his family. And that's what he will want for all of us. Coco said I did wonderfully. Was she barking because she could hear my voice? So I'll leave you with this. And he was a good older brother. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. I'm up here by myself. Javon and Newbie are downstairs. My husband and my son are downstairs because this conversation would be way too upsetting for Javon. So I was hoping that he did not come in the chat, and I didn't see him say anything. So he's very sensitive when it comes to Jalen. So what we're going to do on today, Jalen's favorite restaurant, favorite food is Mexican. We every year on his birthday and his anniversary day, we honor him by going out to eat Mexican, and we make him a birthday cake. His favorite flavor is chocolate with white icing, so we make that every year. Javon made the cake this year all by himself, and which made things easier for me. And we will go to the cemetery and visit the headstone, visit Jalen there. Jalen is buried right beside his dad. And then my daughter, Jaden, his sister, is buried right at the foot of Jalen. So that's how we're going to spend the day. I will be meeting my family at the restaurant. And oh, wow. Really, T? Thank you for coming in. You have two boys, and their name is Jalen and Javon. Oh, wow. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for joining me today. So I thank you guys for your time. I do not take it lightly. It's very valuable to me. So I want you to take the day in honor of Jalen. Do something that makes you laugh. Do something that makes you happy. Look in the sky and send him a kiss for me. With that being said, I'm going to end this live. I love you guys. And until the next video, I'll see you next time.